so here we go into 5.9. 5.9 is the end of this chapter. So in terms of what's coming up in the next few days, today we learn this. There will be a homework based on this. Next class we see each other would just be a homework going over sort of day. So 238 is what'll tonight's be. What we're trying to turn in today maybe is 236. We can see if there's some time today to help you with that later, but we'll start with this new stuff first. There's also a 233 that a few people gave me those to hold, but 233 we need to talk about. So between what's left of the period today and when we see each other next, we'll work our way through all sorts of homework questions. 2 classes away would be the sheet that I gave you. 3 classes away we would take a quiz. Beyond that, there would be a review for the whole chapter that I didn't give you yet because break's about to get in the way, so I'll give you that review for the chapter on the other side of break, because even if you worked ahead and did it now, that's probably not a good idea to review for a test that's like 4 classes away, but like 3 weeks maybe in real time. But today we're capping off this with 5.9, we're doing some things with word problems. So I'm going to start you with 6 starter problems. The homework's going to go 1 to 16, I believe, but I'm just going to start 6 of these and we'll see what they look like. So number 1, I'll start you on. It says 4 times the square of a number is 21 more than 8 times the number. So these are the ones where you just have to read one word and translate it into math, one word at a time. So I'll start you with a 4, then what's the next thing that's going to be math happening? X squared. When it says the square of a number, we're going to do x squared. What's the next math thing?
Like greater than 21?
No.
Equals.
Equals. Is an equals. So we'll go equals there. Next math thing? 21.
Plus 8.
Plus for more than.
8x.
8x for the 8 times a number. So it said 4 times the square of a number. That's the is, 21, that's the more than, 8 times the number. That's how 1 gets created. Question about 1, how we created. We'll come back, I'll finish 2 or 3. You can pick the 2 or 3 I finished, but we'll just get stuff started for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, all about the same. 5, 6, 7, 8 is a little different type. So 5, it's talking about a tabletop. What feels like might be a good idea on this one that probably didn't matter. For sure it didn't matter on the first one. Draw a picture. So, rectangle for a tabletop. It says the length is 5 more than the width. So whether you pick this or that to be the width doesn't really matter. We know really nothing about the width, so just call that W or X or whatever you like. If this one's 5 more than that first one, 5 plus W or W plus 5, either of those is fine. So it says length of a tabletop is 5 more than the width. They say to find the length and the width, the area is 84. So how do we do the area of that shape? W times the W plus 5, and it equals to 84. Anybody trouble with creating 5? Okay, then the next new thing is 9. So 9 starts to talk about consecutive integers, so we have to have an Algebra 1 or an earlier this year flashback. If it starts talking about consecutive integers, we always had the same kind of name game to call them. Anybody memory of consecutive integers? First one we call x.
X plus 1.
Next one is x plus 1, x plus 2, however many we need. What if they say odds?
X plus 2.
Agree? Agree. What if they said evens? Same thing. Okay, so that's just the way we've always named them. So they say on 9, the sums of the squares of 2 consecutive odds. So since they're saying consecutive odds, we're looking at these names. How can we set this up so it's the sum of the squares of those?
Like x squared
Okay?
plus x squared plus like 2 squared, like parentheses.
Yeah.
x plus 2 in the square.
Agreed. And then let's keep reading through the paragraph. Is means equals 202. Question about how 9 got created. 10 is the same kind of thing, so I'll go up to 11. 11 says the sides of a square, so I already feel like I should do something.
Draw a picture.
Draw a picture. So there's like some original square, and then there's going to be a bigger square. So I'm going to draw myself 2 pictures maybe to just feel a little bit better about it. It said we had some sides of a square, and then they got lengthened by 4. So this original little square we could call x. What's the bigger square have going on? X plus 4. So we have little square, big square. It says if the sides of the square are lengthened by 4, the area is going to be 49. We won't. Thought on area being 49. Okay, we could go x plus 4 times x plus 4, or we could do x plus 4 squared. It doesn't matter how you write it. I'm just going to use a little bit less chalk with the square. Equals 49. Question about 11.
You don't have to answer this, but is the answer to that one 33?
No. Something about 11. 12's about the same. 13's a new type. Do I need turned a little bit to catch this?
Yeah, a little bit.
Good. All right, thank you. For 13, draw, no draw? I would draw. So we have a triangle. It's talking about the base and the height. The base probably, obviously, is the bottom. What am I going to do about the height? Yeah, so usually how are the heights drawn on triangles? Dotted lines. So I'm going to go dotted line to be the height. So the base is the bottom. The height is that dotted line I drew through it. It says the base is 9 greater than the height. So this is not a really accurate picture. I didn't draw it to have the base be super long, but life goes on. But how can we label it if the base is 9 more than the height?
H plus 9.
That could be an h plus 9, while this is just an h. They're again talking about areas. So now the question becomes, how do you do areas but for triangle? Half. We go half, and who times who? H times the h plus 9 equals, is that what it was? No, wrong number, 56.
I can't read.
Okay. It was in there, just looked at the wrong spot. That was back to the question, I see. 13 should be about the same as 14. Anybody need help starting 13? 15, draw, no draw? Probably draw, square. Each side would be x. So for 15, they say the perimeter, so I need to do something about that, is always going to be equals 4 more than plus, and then I need to do something about the area. Okay, so the first word they said there was perimeter. What's the perimeter of that as it's drawn? Yeah, perimeter goes all the way around, so it would be 4x. And then the area, what would be the area in terms of how we label it? It would be x squared, because area we do this times that, so that's our start. Question about 50. That's what makes today new. You have to read the stories, you have to create your own question, and once you do that, we're close to where we were yesterday. but let me try to get these a little bit farther than what they are. What was your first move yesterday?
Make over.
Had to have the stuff equal 0. So on this, if I leave the x squared, and I just move this to the other side so it equals 0, what's going to be over here?
Minus 4x.
Minus 4x
Plus 4.
plus 4. And then what were we going to do? That. And I'm not going to do that for you. I'm just going to stop that one there. Question about 15. Let me go after this one, because this has a little bit of ugliness. What's the ugliest thing about this? The half. How can you get rid of a half?
Multiply that by 2.
Multiply everybody by 2. So h and h plus 9 can wait, but if we multiply by 2, we could get a 112 there. Question about how I made that next move to make that less ugly for you. Let me slide back to the middle. Let me make this one less ugly for you. X squared plus. Can somebody tell me what that's going to do? Not quite.
Plus 2x plus 4.
Not
X
quite.
squared plus 4x plus 4.
Agree. So when we square things, you have two choices. One choice is pattern. First times itself is this. Last times itself is that. And in the middle, keep sign, multiply them, but you have to double it. So 2x doubled is 4x. If you don't like that pattern, if you have trouble remembering that pattern, what's another way this can be written? X plus 2, x plus 2. And if we do it that way, x squared is going to happen, the 2x will happen, another 2x will happen to make the 4x that we doubled a second ago. 2's make 4, but we can FOIL that out. What would be your next thing for this? Combine like terms. So this makes 2x squared plus 4x. And while you're doing that, you might as well make it equal 0. What's that going to create when that moves over? Negative 198. About that. If we did do a little bit more to factor, what would you do first to factor that? Take out the 2. And then I'll just drop that for a second. Check the board out. I'll do at least 2 all the way to the finish line for you. Anybody, just pick one that you don't like and I'll take it the whole way to the finish. Anybody have something up there that you're like, I don't want to do that? Or just yell a random number. 13. So scrolling back this way. So 13, what would we do about this?
Squared plus 9h.
Distribute, so h squared plus 9h. And while I'm at it, I might as well minus 112, so it equals 0. Then we'll factor. We'll go
H.
h and h,
Plus minus.
different signs. And then I'm feeling like I'm having a moment of hesitation here. 112's not in our times table, so that's kind of a hassle. What are we trying to think of? It does work, but we don't. 112's not our favorite number ever, so maybe good call. What are the numbers we're looking for? What do they have to do?
Make the 9/8.
Do what to make the 9? Subtract to make 9, but multiply to make 112. So we're probably going to need to do some calculator explorations here. You know, 112 divide by something and find its partner. You know, 112 divide 4. 112 divide this.
7 and 16.
7 and 16 is going to be your pair, but it might take some calculator exploration for a minute to do that because we've never seen 112 on our times tables. But 7 and 16 multiply to make that, and they subtract to make 9. So this would be the 16. That would be the 7. If it were yesterday's lesson, we'd be almost done. This would tell us that an H possible answer would be negative 16. Can a triangle have a height of negative 16? No. So some answers you're going to get that represent like real shapes, and you get negatives, you're just going to discard that. The height can't be negative 16. That's kind of silly, and that's not worthwhile. This is telling you that the height is 7. Then word problems, you always have to look and make sure you answer what they ask. If they asked you for the height, we're done. For this one on 13, they said find the height and the base. So we need a base answer as well, but we're close. The height is 7. The base was 9 more than 7, that's 16. Okay, here's the thing that tends to happen, and it's not like complete luck, just take it as a little bit of confirmation. We threw away a negative 16, but that 16, through the logic of the problem, sort of found a way to resurrect itself. We tried to bump it off, and it like found its way back. A lot of times, the negative that you throw away, it'll kind of like reestablish itself in positive form because of something going on in the story. Like the base was 9 more than 7, so here comes a 16 to replace the negative 16 we threw away. If that happens, that's probably a sign you did good stuff. Like that tends to happen when you do good stuff. The negatives get thrown, but they like find their way back in positive form somehow. 13, question about how we finished it with like the details at the end. Let's do at least one more. Anybody see anything else that you're just not liking the way it looks? Or you just want me to do stuff for free because I'm here and getting paid to do it? Anything? Got another random number if we got to. 5? Just rolling back this way. So 5, what are we going to do?
Make it equal 0.
Yeah. And what'll help us do that? Somebody I think said it. Distribute. So if we distribute, that's what's 5W? While we're doing that, if we make it equal 0, minus that 84. Factor. W's. Signs. Different signs because of that minus. And then this is in our times tables. There are numbers that multiply to 84 in the times tables, but subtract to 5.
12 and 7.
12 and 7. Plus takes 12. Minus takes 7. So this gives us a width of
7.
this one, negative 12. This would give us a width of 7. Are both of those valid, or should I throw away anything?
Throw in 12.
Throw away that negative 12. We can't have rectangles with widths of negative 12. Before we celebrate and move on, what should we check?
No problem.
Yeah, what's the problem say? What did they tell us to hunt down? If they only wanted us to hunt the width, we're good. For 5, they say find the length and the width. So width is 7. How much would the length be? 12. Why do I feel very good about the 12 and everything else I did being correct?
Because we had a negative.
Because we already just had that a second ago, but in negative form, and I told you the negative will often find its way somehow back in positive form. I would do one more if you have interest in that. If you don't, I'll call it a day and move on to probably take that quiz in a little bit. Is there anybody that wants to see any more of those get taken to the finish line? I'll do one more if you have one. 11. So 11, we'd want to square this out. So what's going to happen if we square that out?
X squared. 8x.
Yes?
16. Plus
16. Agreed. Anybody need an explanation of how we squared that? Then what?
Make it 0.
Make it 0. So still x squared plus 8x
minus
minus 33. Factors, x's,
plus minus
different signs,
11,
11 and 3, with this being
11.
the 11 and the 3. Ran out of room. Go up there. What's this telling us that the x could be?
Negative 11.
Negative 11. This tells us the x would be 3. Then consider, keep or pitch.
No, pitch that. 11.
Keep the 3,
Pitch the 11.
pitch the negative 11. Where the 3 lives is back here. The 3 is the x. The x was on that little sized square. So if they ask you about the little square, you're going to go with 3. If they ask you about the big square, you'd have to go with 7. We don't know until we read, so we read 11. It says find the length of the original square. So we're going with 3. The 11 didn't find a way to resurrect itself that time. That's okay, don't worry about that. If it does come back, that's fine. It's like confirmation, but the negatives don't always find their way back to life again. Sometimes they're just gone. Anything from 238 or what we're doing in general? Questions? If you need homework help, let me do that. If you don't need homework help, maybe study for the quiz and we'll do that next. 236 is what I'm going to try to grab today if you have it. Is there anybody that got some hang-ups on 236 that you need help to get it to the finish line? Anything bad on 236? Two days ago, I had people give me 233s to just hold them, and I said we'd get to those another day. I think we ran out of time maybe, that's why we didn't collect them, but I think the 233s were maybe done. Does people have 233? Any kind of issues on 233 that you skipped around or need help right now on any 233s to get them done? If you can, at the end of the row, try to keep those separate, but 233s that are finished, send them. 236s that are finished, send them. I think the day back from break, I'll give these back to you, and we'll run through what the answers were and kind of do a reteach. But I think for now, we'll hit up one of those little quizzes and then call it a day. Nobody who has any homework questions for today? If you're down, use the break to catch up. That's about it.